Now, as we welcome Brian Mintz, we're glad to have him with us this morning, and he will bring our message to us. And the show is yours.
I'm just going to share a little bit. I'm not going to be preaching too much. I'm just going to share a little bit about what's going on with FCA and to explain to you what FCA is. And first of all, FCA stands for the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. And it's been in existence since 1954. And I think that probably some of you might remember when Joe Namath was selling pantyhose. Y'all remember that and stuff? And I know yesterday, for the first time, because I hadn't watched television in a while, but Old Spice had started a new sales campaign, advertising campaign, using one of the football players in the NFL whose last name is Sweat. And so they've started an ad campaign with him, and to help them sell their products. And guys, that's exactly where the Fellowship of Christian Athletes began, was a coach and partnered with some other men. And the idea is that coaches and athletes, if they can sell all these products, and if you go back into the 50s, they were selling cigarettes and probably alcohol and everything else imaginable. But the idea is that what kind of an effect could they have on the world by proclaiming the gospel of Jesus Christ and sharing that, and if you want to say, selling that by being spokespersons for the gospel. And so that's where the Fellowship of Christian Athletes began. And FCA focuses on serving the local communities around the globe by engaging, equipping, and empowering coaches and athletes to unite, inspire, and change the world through the gospel. Okay, that's in one sentence basically what we're trying to do. And some of you may have heard the quote by Billy Graham that a coach is going to influence more people in a year than the average person does in a lifetime. And that's certainly true, and because I know that because of the effect that coaches have had on my life. And before I begin this past spring, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but I coached for 32 years, 33 years actually. And I look back on that, and I hope that I had positive influences on people. The kids that I coached, and even the people, students in the school, and the point is that, hopefully that has that ripple effect, like when you throw the rock into the water that goes forth and leaves an impression upon others. Our vision with FCA is to see the world transformed by Jesus Christ through the influence of coaches and athletes. And I just want to talk a minute about the basis, I guess, for sharing. And when we think about sharing, a great place and a great guy to look at would be Paul. And in Romans, in the 15th chapter, he talks about what he wanted to do, what his ambition was to preach the gospel where Jesus Christ had not already been named. And he wanted to go forth, and I'm going to move away from that, so that's basically it. I'll just use my coach voice. That's what Mike says. Mike say, Dad's using his coach voice now. So now I've lost my train of thought too. So Paul wanted to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ where it had not been preached before. And from that, he continues on, and he talks about going to Rome, that he wanted to go to Rome. And then even beyond that, he presents that he wanted to go to Spain, and that Rome was just going to be a stop-off for him. And guys, that's exactly what we're doing. And I know that we don't think about this, but the Fellowship of Christian Athletes is a great ministry, and it's the mission field. The only difference is the mission field is our young people. And we're in the schools, and I know that a lot of times you hear about the atheist group that's political, that they don't want, they're for the separation of church and state and all that kind of stuff, and they're filing these lawsuits. Most of our school systems and stuff do not have the money to fight those lawsuits. But when they have gone to court and they have been challenged, most of the time the school system wins. Okay, usually faith wins. And what a lot of people don't understand was the separation of church and state, which is not in the Constitution, that was in a letter that was written and where it was presented. But the idea is not to protect the state from the church. The idea was to protect the church from the state, to keep you with your freedom of religion and to protect that. But in the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, we're going into the schools, and that door has remained open for us. So we have an end that a lot of other people do not have at this time. That has been removed from a church or whatever from going in. But and a lot of that has to do with the fact that a lot of the things that we do are after school hours, and then also we're moving into the students themselves being the leaders. That's the whole idea, is we want those students to be leaders and for them to share the gospel. And again, I have occasionally I'll have someone ask me and say, well, is it just athletes? Well, the coaches, number one is my job is to minister to the coaches, who in turn I want to minister to the athletes. Now, yes, I do speak and do a lot of different things directly with the athletes themselves. But, from that, what we're looking for is for those athletes to go share in their classrooms and in their peer, with their friends. And so it has that ripple effect again. And that's what we're looking to do with the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. What is my job? My job is just to be the administrator here in Etowah County of the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. And what does that mean? That means that I'm going around and visiting with coaches. We have the coaches who sign up and our ministry leadership with a ministry leadership application, and where they say, they have to agree that they agree with our statements of faith, which is just basic Christian doctrine, just like the affirmation of faith or something like that, and that they understand that, and then they're prepared to share with the kids. And really, they're not so much sharing as they are training those student athletes to take leadership roles, or at least that's the way that it should work. We've got a couple of schools, especially like at the Christian school, they can be a little more obvious or a little more straightforward with the coaches just sharing, at any time. When I was at Westbrook, that's easily done. And Coach Knowles, who's at Westbrook now, does a great job. He's got a program there where they've built a community outreach. There was a little flag football league talking with where they're how the kids play, and then they're able to share the gospel. Some of the players sharing the gospel with them after they finish playing. So that's the basis. Now, why did I want to do this? Well, as some of you may know, I experienced salvation right here in this church, although the pews are different and they're padded now, okay? They were just straight wooden pews back in 1977. But I heard a coach speak right here, and I was raised in, I say this all the time, I was raised in a wonderful Christian home, and but at the same time, there came a point where I felt like I had to accept Christ for myself. And that's the thing that we see so often with young people. And, you know, I came forward right here, and Coach Wood, Dexter Wood was here at speaking that time, and then he eventually, in a few years, he introduced me to the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. He started the program here at Southside, and, you know, that was continued. And then when I got to college, you know, I didn't all, you know, I hate to confess this, but I didn't always make it to church. But, you know, I made it to the Fellowship of Christian Athletes on Wednesday night there on campus in the field house, where we had a young coach who would come in and share the word with us. And basically it was a Bible study, you know. But that was a wonderful experience to be with other young people who was my age, and, you know, you're figuring things out, and you're being supported by others that are having the same problems and the same issues that you're having when you're a young person. So that was very, I guess, formative to me. And as I began coaching, you know, I wanted to carry forth that what God had given me. And so at every school, I guess that I was at, you know, we had the Fellowship of Christian Athletes program, and I was able to minister to the young people that were playing sports under me through that. That gave me a vehicle from which to share. And of course, as you know, the freedom from religion, like I was talking about a minute ago, they've come in and you know, they've curtailed a lot of that. Just this past year, whether you realize it or not, there was a lawsuit right here in Elwha County that was filed against the coach at Sardis about him praying with the students, you know. And the thing is they can't do anything about me, okay? I'm outside of the school system, so I'm not a government employee any longer, so I can come in and say prayers or do whatever I want to do. Now, they may say, or somebody may want to say, that that's unfair or whatever, but you know, until they form their own Fellowship of Muslim Athletes or something like that, that's on them. So I can come and share, and there's not a whole lot that they can do about that. Now, I get, you know, the school, as far as me, like during the school day or something, maybe they could say, well, we're not going to do, we don't feel like we can allow you to do that openly here in school. But for the most part, you know, I can go into a school, I can visit with the coaches, I can visit with the athletes, and that's what I spend most of my time doing. And the rest of my time, and I'm just going to mention this in case any of you are interested. All right, hey, I'm in the mission field, and this is basically just like supporting a missionary in Africa. You know, we spend time fundraising, and that's, you know, that's what I spend another part of my time doing. Everything, and we give, I give Bibles away. I've probably given close to 50 Bibles away here in the past couple of weeks to kids that do not have a Bible, or, you know, the FCA Bible that we give has so many devotional materials, Bible study materials in the front and the back and that kind of thing. You know, it's built with the young person in mind. It had, like at the end of every chapter or so, there will be like 3 or 4 little study questions, you know, just to kind of get the young person to think about what that scripture has been about. And that's really powerful, okay? And it really brings the word to these young people so that they can understand it. And they've got some explanation for it. And then it has some other fun materials too in it, again, that's best suited for them. A few things that we've been doing, just to share that with you. I have actually, during the summer, I began working, but I did not officially begin actually until September the 1st. But at the end of August, going into that, we hosted the FCA Sportsmanship Banquet, which we, each school brings in like 8 of their kids, and the coaches choose who they want that to be. And we hosted that at the venue in Gadsden. And each school has like a table of 8, so usually there'll be a couple of coaches, and then they'll bring like 6 of their athletes. And every week, if you listen to Grace Radio, we announce a team of the week that's been chosen for good sportsmanship. And I got a complaint here not too long ago that someone sent me a message and said that they didn't think the team that got chosen deserved it, but I just want to tell you, I don't choose that, okay? So if you disagree, then that's quite all right, but I'm not going to. I just want to present the award. Actually, we allow the referee associations, and there's 3 of those. There's one in the Oxford County area there, and then there's one at Jacksonville, and then we have one here in Etowah County. And us and the FCA, which is Chehaw Valley, we go in together and do that. And so basically, not completely, but you know, we've had like 3 winners in the Calhoun County area. It's had 3 winners so far this year. And then when we have a sportsmanship banquet in the summer, we'll have a speaker who'll come and share the message, and hopefully, you know, those student athletes will take that back to their schools and share what has gone on. But then at we recognize, of course, the team that is chosen as the winner for the year for the sportsmanship trophy. Sometimes it is a team that has won some games, and sometimes it's a team that has not won very many games. But winning and losing has nothing to do with that. It's, you know, the representation of the behavior of the players and coaches and even the fans. Okay, we had one school who for a couple of years didn't win it, and they were kind of questioning why they didn't win it. And you know, they were basically told their fans were horrible. You know, the players and the coaches were pretty decent fans, which basically means the parents. Okay, which that's not good. You know, so. I know the High School Athletic Association a lot of times would tell me, or tell all the coaches, but you know, thinking about it in a personal way, would tell me that I'm responsible as the head football coach for everyone's behavior in the stadium. You know, and I'm like, no, I don't want that responsibility at all. But you know, for the most part, I think there is some truth in that, in the fact that when you're building a program of any kind, and it's no different in a church, you know. The followers are going to take on the personality and the attributes that are deemed important by the leadership. And I think that's true. And certainly I hope it's true. And, you know, and here's the thing, and I'll talk about this a little bit more here in just a minute, but, you know, Joe being the pastor and stuff, and me doing this, don't look at us, okay? All right, the leader of this church is Jesus, okay? Look at Jesus. He's the example. It's certainly, it's not Joe and it's not me, because we're sinners. I can assure you of that. The other thing is I wanted to do, about 2 days later after we had the sportsmanship banquet, and that was for the football players, I had made a commitment that I wanted to start recognizing our girls. So what we did was I go to church at Southside Baptist, and so I use the church because I can do that. Facilities and stuff for a lot of the meetings and stuff, but we hosted I had a media day event for the volleyball. So we got our girls involved, and we brought them in, and we had an FCA speaker for them, and we fed them, all the girls, and I brought in the newspapers and the television station out of Anniston and all, and you know, those girls got the recognition that the boys have been getting for a while in football and stuff, and I'm telling you, they loved it. They loved it. And best part about that is, we had like I said, I had a young lady who spoke to the girls, and we had our first girl accept Christ that evening, and through the efforts of FCA a little bit. Okay, so that was wonderful to see, and we're very excited about that. And I want to just follow that up with a minute, because I try to follow it up anytime we have a kid, come to salvation, accept the Lord. We all say that in some kind of different way maybe, but we make that commitment. And I try to stress that that's a commitment. And guys, I'm not operating outside the church. I'm operating with the church and in partnership with the church. We had, I went and spoke here at Southside High School, and we had, if I'm not mistaken, 13 young people accept Christ that afternoon. And so what we do is we try to follow that back up, and one afternoon here not too long ago, actually it's about 2 weeks ago, we had some of the youth pastors from the area where the kids had said, I've gone to church there, or, if they gave us a church or whatever, we tried to have the youth pastors come and basically talk to those kids. And it was kind of like it was kind of like an NFL draft a little bit, where they could go and visit a little bit and try to get those kids in church so they can be discipled. And that's important. So we're trying to follow that up as best we can, whenever we can. But I want to go back. I visited with a couple of the, one of them was the little girl that was saved and stuff, and I went and spoke with her and her coach, and I asked her about getting in a church, and one of the things that she said, and I know a lot of times y'all, a lot of people that come to church and stuff don't think about all this, but she made a statement to me that she wasn't sure, her parents and all weren't in church. And I said, well, is there someone that you can get to take you? And she was like, well, I don't know. And I said, well, surely there's a friend that you could ask to go with to church, or, and she just really wasn't sure. And, that's the thing that we as Christians, even as young people, should be offering people to come to church. And that's something that all of us can do. Just make sure, and you might be surprised how often somebody might want to come to church, but they've never been asked. They've never been asked about coming to church. I'm reminded of a story of a guy that, when I first started coaching, a guy that was coaching with me who played at a little school, and he just said that the reason that he was a football player was because one day during lunch, the coach asked him if he had played football. He said, I was in the band. And it just amazed me that there I was in the line in the lunchroom, and the coach came in and asked me if I had played football. And he said, then I became a football player. And I played, and then he became a coach. But, that simple thing of asking goes a long way. It really, really does. And that's one of the things is the first time I spoke to a group of athletes, at the end of it, I didn't ask, and, hey, would anybody here like to give their life to Christ, or, make a commitment? And as soon as I got in my truck and I left that athletic facility, I was convicted of that, that you didn't even ask. How do you expect someone to join the team if you don't ask? And, that's the thing is, it's not a lot different than, I don't know, and I'm going to look at a scripture right here in just a minute for just a short little lesson lesson, I guess, because I felt like I wanted to share Jesus a little bit, not just about FCA, but share Jesus just a little bit. But we need to ask, and when we do that, realize, or one of the things that I try to realize, Paul, who wrote most of our New Testament, was a lover of sports and athletics. There's all kinds. Now they didn't have football and basketball and baseball, but they had track and field, think Olympic type things, okay, and boxing. He makes references to those things over and over. So Paul didn't tell us that he was very athletic, but apparently he was a fan because he makes so many references to those things. And so that's easily transitioned to the kids about sports, okay, and making them the tie-in between sports and faith. One other, let's see, here about a week, 2 weeks ago, I guess, be a week ago Wednesday, probably 2 weeks ago this coming Wednesday. We had the Fields of Faith at Gadsden City, and we had, we invited all of the schools and ended up, I think we, it's hard to guess and make a crowd or whatever, but I'm going to say we were 250, give or take a little bit, probably ended up with about 250 kids that came to the stadium, and I had 9 kids from different schools share their faith there publicly, and they did a wonderful job. I mean, wonderful job of sharing. Every adult that I've spoken to was taken aback by how awesome those kids were in their sharing. And it was nearly like, and I didn't, I told them, I said, get up, give a testimony, share your faith, maybe talk about what FCA means to you, incorporate your sport, if there's some way that you can do that. So I asked them to do that, but that every one of those kids basically talked about coming to faith as a 7-year-old or a 9-year-old, but never developing a relationship with Christ until they got older. And I think that's probably true for most of us, as we develop our needs and we begin to try to figure things out and stuff. I heard a guy the other day say, the Bible is an instruction book. And us men especially now, because I called myself yesterday, I can't even remember what it was, but I just remember, I do know, it was a little light projector thing that I bought from Amy, but I tore the bag open and I started putting it together. And that right there, it's all laid in on the back of it is the instruction sheet, I didn't even look at that, And us as humans are so bad about that because, hey, God has given us the instruction book, but we don't even look at it until we're in trouble. Then we want to look in the Bible and see what it says. How do I get out of this trouble? Why hasn't God blessed me or whatever, the situation is. But we wait until the emergency of life comes before we want to open the book. And I was just listening, coming over here in the car. A pastor was talking, and he a study that was just released said that of Christians, just of Christians, only 11% of Christians read their Bible daily. That's unbelievable. You'd think that would be much higher. Okay, it should be much higher. It should be 100%. And that's the thing that I've try to make a habit of doing every day. Is try to read a little bit. And I just want to share a little bit because I want you to leave here with some Jesus. So I just want to share a little bit here with you. And I'm going to, and I use this a lot with the young people. This is an example here of Paul using some athletic endeavors to make his point. And the first, 1 Corinthians 9:24 through 27, do you not know that all men in the race and blah, 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 that's a typical example, but, there's words that are just strong throughout the New Testament of athletic events and references. But anyway, this is Hebrews 12, verses 1 and 2. Therefore, we also, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, and the cloud of witnesses, and are in chapter 11, where he gives basically the Hall of Fame of Faith. But I like to think about that cloud of witnesses also going beyond that and being like the apostles, and the saints and martyrs who have gone before us. And I can just imagine that cloud of witnesses. And I also heard, I think a few years ago, I was looking at some notes. Our preacher preached a sermon on these verses here, and he talked about that being the stadium. And that cloud of witnesses are the fans. They're cheering you on. They're wanting you to be successful. They're cheering you on. But it says, a great cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which is so easily ensnares us, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us. Now, when I think about weight, and one of the things I use this with kids a lot, I don't know, if y'all got kids and grandkids and stuff, they carry around those backpacks at school, and they've got every book that's ever been printed in a library, carrying that around with them. And that thing is heavy, and I just imagine if I was that kid, when I got to class and I set that weight down, what a relief that would be. And, when we come to the Lord, that's the way that sin is. That sin is that weight that we're carrying around. And the other thing is, you can think about a runner or a cyclist. In my case, I can't run anymore, but I like to get on my bicycle and ride. But the clothing that is made for runners and cyclists, it weighs nothing. Shoes weigh nothing. Now, I can remember when I first started playing basketball in high school, I had a pair of Converse, and they just, until then, we just wore the canvas ones, And I was in about the 9th or 10th grade, and we ordered some leather ones. And we were so excited they looked so sharp, we thought, back then. But those things were like army boots, they were heavy. They were really heavy compared to the shoes that the kids are wearing now. So, that's the whole thing, is decrease the weight. And, if I'm running my Christian life, and I'm running that race, I want to reduce that weight. I want to set that weight aside, that sin aside. And it says then, that which so easily ensnares us. And when I think of ensnares, growing up on a farm and stuff, I think ensnare, I think barbed wire. Okay, I'm just going to say that. Because you're always getting caught on it, and then, when you get loose from one place there, you've moved into it and got caught here on 2 other places. So you're ensnared in that. And that's the way sin does us, is it ensnares us so that we're caught. And one of the, a lot of the kids, again, a lot of times I'll use the reference of, because they're learning in history about World War I, a lot of times, and the barbed wire that was strung between the 2 armies in the trenches in no man's land. And that was the whole point of it, is that if you tried to attack the other trench, you get ensnared in the barbed wire, and you'd be an easy target. So sin becomes a weight, and it becomes a snare for us. And then he says, let us run with endurance the that is set, the race that is set before us. Let us run with endurance this race that is set before us. Running that race, and this gets me, and I've kind of started a little study on this myself. It's real easy for us to accept Christ as Savior. All of us want to do that. But you know, He has to be Lord and Savior. All right? And that race involves obedience. Okay? And Christ says in John 14:15, if you love me, keep my commandments. And so oftentimes I see people falsely, who want to say that I can be a Christian and I can keep my sin. You can't. All right? You have to move away from that lifestyle of sin to be a Christian. I've got to obey. I've got to find Christ as Lord and be willing to follow Him and surrender all, surrender myself. I've got to be transformed, okay, by the renewing of my mind. And how do I do that? Y'all know that scripture. I do that by His Word. So I'm looking before us, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith. Looking unto Jesus. And I talk about, again, running the race and looking unto Jesus. When I go and I talk to a football team, you know, the race is to that goal line down there at the end. And that's where Jesus is. Okay? We're running, we're moving, we're trying to move that football across that goal line. And that's the whole thing is it's not going to be easy. And the other part of that is, and this goes back to when I'm talking about obedience and stuff, the race is not 30 seconds. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. A football game lasts 4 quarters. You can't just play 1 quarter and at the end of the quarter be ahead and go, "Ooh, that was wonderful." Okay? The game is 4 quarters. I've got to play all 4 quarters of that game until the final horn or the final whistle. I've got to play the whole thing. And I've got to be trying to move toward that goal. And that goal for me as a Christian is Jesus Christ. He's the author and finisher of our faith. And I think the author part is hey, you know, Christ, before the beginning of time, God had already figured out the plan for our salvation, which involved Jesus, obviously, coming to that Roman cross and dying on that cross for my sin and for your sin. And then being resurrected on the 3rd day, and you know, that gives us the victory over sin and death. We can know that we have the assurance of life, eternal life, because He has won that victory. That was the plan, and Jesus wrote it, okay? So He's the author and finisher. So what does that mean? He's the finisher. He has completed it. He did it all on the cross, okay? Not only did He make the plan, He did it. He completed it. There's nothing for me to do but to just accept the salvation and then be obedient to Him. You know, there's nothing that I can do to enhance my salvation. He did it all. It's all Him. Who for the joy that was set before Him endured the cross. For the joy that was set before Him. What was the joy of being crucified on the cross? Naked, I might add. You know, so oftentimes we see pictures of Jesus on the cross and stuff, and He's got some robe around Him and stuff. No, when you were crucified naked. Okay? I mean, so the embarrassment is beyond, and that is God Himself came to earth and endured that for me and for you. What is the joy of that? The joy of that was knowing that He was going to have this is the only way that He could have a relationship with me or with you. Okay? The joy was being able to have that relationship. The joy was completing what the Father had set out for him to do. Accomplishing the mission, accomplishing the goal. That's the joy. Okay? And thank goodness that Christ wanted that joy. Despising the shame. And that's what I was, obviously there was shame in that. And it would be shame in that for just a human being, much less for the creator of the universe. What kind of shame would that be? And has sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. So Jesus has returned to his rightful place with God. Okay? Now, that's a sermon for another day. I'll leave that to Joe about the Trinity and whatnot. But, it is our belief that Christ is God, that we only have one God in three persons. And one of those being the Spirit, one of those being Christ, and then, of course, God the Father. So I'll leave that to Joe. Okay. So that's basically a little lesson that I might share with some students, and emphasizing the race and the game, as it were. It being football, or if I'm talking to some girls about volleyball, I'll use another reference sometime. But I just ask that you pray for our Fellowship of Christian Athletes ministry and for the young people of our county. And when I say county, I often get this. I'm over all the schools in Etowah County, the city school, Etowah, and the two private schools, and then, of course, all the schools of the county school system. Because I'll have somebody say, oh, is that just the county schools? No, it's all of them. It's just, and I chose kind of the name Etowah County because FCA typically will be like North Central Alabama, Northeast Central Alabama, North Alabama, and so I was kind of tired of the direction. I just wanted everybody to know where I was, and we're Etowah County, so that makes it real simple. Now, hey, does anybody have a question that I might answer or anything? Oh, well, great. All right, so if there is anything, though, y'all can let me know. All right, and of course, my mom and dad are here still. Been a part of this church since sometime in the 70s, I guess. So I guess we're, 50 years y'all been here, just about? Something like that? Yeah. So, but anyway, again, I appreciate and covet your prayers for us and for the young people. And I want you to know this right here. You hear a lot of bad things and stuff. I just want you to know that, like I said, I grew up in a great home, Ozzie and Harriet, Leave It to Beaver kind of home, and hey, a lot of these kids don't have that. Okay, they're growing up without parents, and and I can even think of a family that I dealt with recently who are wealthy. Okay, and they're very busy, professional people about their jobs. But I was talking to their child at one point, and this is a young man, he's young off to college now. But he raised himself. He came home to an empty home. He fixed his own meals. He had to have the discipline to study, and after football and so on and so forth. And I just want you to know this right here. Our kids do a phenomenal job. For the most part. There's a lot of negatives. They get a lot of negative print, but I just want you to know that these kids do phenomenally well with the circumstances that have been given a lot of times. And, one of the things that I see, not just with what I'm doing, but with some of the youth and the church groups and stuff, I'm seeing some of the value. And I think that's awesome. And, the adults in our communities have got to catch up with the kids, I think, now. I think that's where we're at. I really do. But we're seeing some revival in some of the schools and stuff. And, I'm very, very excited about that. that's really all I have. Let me pray, and I guess we can be dismissed, unless y'all got something else that you, okay, one more thing. All right. Father, I just want to thank you for the opportunity to come and share a little bit of your word and share a little bit about our ministry here today. Father, I ask that you be with this church, be with Joe, the pastor, and let him lead this group in your word and your discipleship that you would have him do. Father, I know that there's many sick and many hurting people. And Father, many of them are maybe right here. And I just ask that you place your hand of healing and your hand of grace and peace to be with them. For it's in Christ's name I pray. Amen.